Welcome to Carteret Connects. I'm Mike McHugh, the host of Coastal Daybreak, along with Richard Clark, news director for
Good morning.
Carteret News-Times, and we're glad you're joining us on this June 5th, 2020. Tomorrow is going to be the 76th anniversary of D-Day.
76.
Do people? I hope people still remember this. The younger generation, I hope they do. If they don't, go to your history books and look what our troops did, our Allied troops over in Normandy.
Well,
June
sadly,
6, 1944.
Sadly, I think it's dying, maybe not completely, but with the generation that, you just don't hear as much about it as I did when I was a kid. They were directly affected. Your parents, my parents,
That's something that is just seared in my brain. That date, December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor, the sneak attack, D-Day. Just saying D-Day. You see June 6th, 1944.
Well, I probably going to do disservice to people, but whenever I hear it, the first thing that pops in my head is that opening scene from Private Ryan.
Well, yeah, that's the story of that.
It's so. I remember watching that in the movie and going, "Holy!"
That was like one of the
when they perfected surround sound.
Yeah.
So you could hear the bullets tinging behind you
and all that.
Yeah,
imagine how that was. Just imagine.
Yeah.
You're on it's June,
I can't even.
It's Normandy. You're in France on a beach, and I think of this. I've never served. I'm not saying
no. I don't even pretend.
But imagine how pretty it is on days when you're walking on Emerald Isle. Just think of that for a second. Now you don't have the cliffs like they do in Normandy, but just imagine.
Well, I will say
Normandy. We see everything in black and white. Except that in the movie though, you're seeing it in color, and then you're seeing the carnage.
Normandy is on my bucket list of things to go to the cemetery park.
Yeah. I will say this to people watching now, or maybe if you're tuning in and it's not yet 5:30 today on June 5th, on 107.1, Lockwood Phillips did a great oral history of World War II veterans, war stories, and he's got Earl Norwood on, who was a driver. He navigated one of the Higgins boats that dropped the troops off the shore. I think I've heard this episode before.
Outstanding.
It's outstanding, and the recollection that these men had from their World War II service is just remarkable. Lockwood did these about 10 years ago or so.
I don't want to say one's any better than the other, okay? But most of these kids from that particular thing, they got drafted. It's not like they necessarily wanted to go.
They got drafted,
but they did what they had to do.
Yeah, I'll say this though: a lot of them volunteered. So it was a different time. We were attacked by the Japanese, and a surprise attack. People knew the world was boiling. Germany was already Europe was already at war. China and Japan were doing their thing. And then when the invasion occurred, December 7th, it wasn't until a few days later that Germany declared war on us, along with Italy. People forget that. The Axis powers, Mussolini and Italy, the real fascists, declared war. So now we were in a two-front war with the Pacific Theater and the European Theater. I'll say this: my father-in-law, who died a few years ago, he was a radio operator on B-24. And based in England, and their missions were to fly supplies. They were a black ops group called the Carpetbaggers, and they were flying out of Harrington base in England over to France to drop supplies to the French underground, and they really were leading up to putting supplies back there for D-Day. Nobody knew about it because of the top secret nature of the whole D-Day event, but he flew a mission on tonight, December 5th, over to France, and on the return, they flew over the English Channel, and he said, you could have walked across the water from France to England with the number of boats that were out there just bringing troops and supplies. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine being the first one out of the Higgins boats opened up, and there you were. And sometimes, because of the tide shift, they didn't time it correctly, and some of the troops drowned. They got shot right on the boat.
They made
it through though. They made it through, the beachhead, and they pushed the Germans back, and that was the beginning. Basically, that was the beginning of the end. It would take another year, just less than a year, to defeat Germany in May of '45. But that was the beginning of the Battle of the Bulge. That was pushing the Germans through France back to Germany.
Yeah,
Third Army, Patton.
Patton went through Italy, correct?
Well, they were down there. He chased the Germans all the way up.
Right.
It was the Third Armored Division.
Right.
And he went across. He went across France.
What Montgomery and France?
English was Montgomery. Right. Yeah, they were allies, but they were competitors trying to get to the next town first. Patton outraced his supply line. He was terrific as far as there will never be another U.S. general like General George S. Patton. Never. Army. Marine Corps had a lot of stellar command generals, but it was a different time, different war. We fought differently than we do today.
But it was interesting. I was watching something else, and they were comparing, and this was our military guy doing it. That guy that he was head of the Marines a few years back. Anyway,
Commandant.
Commandant. He was talking about. They were talking about Civil War and officers and the Confederacy and the Union and so forth, and he was comparing Robert E. Lee's battlefield tactics to Rommel, about how good they were.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Rommel wrote the book.
No, he was.
So, but he may have.
But he may have borrowed it from Robert
from Lee. And then it's funny if you watch the movie Patton. If you haven't seen the movie Patton, it came out like in 1972, and it's George C. Scott playing George S. Patton. And I think he does Patton better than Patton did himself. Seriously. But there's a scene in there where I think they're still in North Africa, and it's the German and it's Rommel's troops down there, and Patton's got the high ground. Yeah. And he just annihilates the armor that Rommel had out on the battlefield. And he said he shouts down to. I mean, Patton was right on the front lines, and there's German planes strafing the battlefield. And Patton, in fact, shoots one of the planes. Or no, that's another scene. He says, Rommel, you magnificent bastard! I read your book, and he read the book.
Well, there was, as good as Patton was, we also had to upgrade our artillery, so to speak. We started they were using the Panzer tanks for the Germans, Rommel. We had the Shermans. And they were better. Well, the Shermans, we went to the Shermans because we weren't as good.
Those guys
we built the Shermans after that.
Those guys were riding in tin cans.
Yeah, but
the Panzers didn't stop. You're right. In the U.S. tank,
the Panzers and the U-boats were better than anything. That's why they were winning in the beginning. Yeah. So, and then when we were able to flip that technology advantage is when we started coming back.
Yeah,
so
it took a while.
Anyway,
took a while.
Enough on that.
But D-Day.
Go remember it tomorrow.
June 6th, 1944. So we're 76 years away from that. I also think of Brother D-Day when I hear D-Day from Animal House. Remember that?
Wow, yeah.
Remember the car they built for the float?
Yeah, looked like a tank. Yeah.
Ramming speed. Brother D-Day.
That was like 76 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
We're old.
That was one of the first movies that I can recall. I was 15. That they actually checked your ID to go into the movie theater because it was wasn't it rated R? I think it wasn't PG.
My first memory of that is when I was young. I wanted to go see Richard Pryor. I think it was live on Sunset Strip.
Yeah.
And they denied us the first time we tried.
Yeah.
And then we waited to the next one because we went to play putt golf or something. And then we somehow got in the other one. I don't remember.
Richard Pryor was excellent. We were talking about that the other day about Richard Pryor, and then you said on Sunset Strip, like Lenny Bruce broke the ice for all of them. But Lenny Bruce was what, in the 50s, right?
Yeah.
So these comedians come up, they become of age, and it was still what they were saying. George Carlin did the 7 words that you can't say, and that was just groundbreaking stuff. Well, if you want to see groundbreaking stuff, and we're not going to do it here on the podcast. I'm not going to go through it. I want you to watch it yourself. But go onto YouTube. You've seen this. Chevy Chase, and Richard Pryor from Saturday Night Live. I think it's 1975, maybe 76. The episode, and Chevy Chase is now you would call him a human resource person. He's interviewing Richard Pryor for the job, for a job, and I won't tell you the job because it's part of the punchline as well too. But he goes through. He's here. Okay, he says we're about to hire you, but we want to go through a little word association. So I'm going to say a word, and you say the first thing that comes to your mind. Watch that YouTube video, and you tell us on here. Could that comedy ever be done today? The way it's done right there on network television, albeit at 11:30 at night. It would talk about. I won't say it groundbreaking, but just how the standards have changed. And
that's ironic. It's ironic you say that
because it's comedy.
Because most people out there will think that TV's much worse than it is to now than it was.
Yeah,
I don't think it is. I think it is maybe a few things. Maybe they're a little more sexual content, but
Well, you know what though? I mean,
The words and
you talk
things like
about-
that.
Okay, so let's just stay with Saturday Night Live, and you talk about sexual content. Granted, I mean, if anybody out here that we're talking to doesn't know what Saturday Night Live is, you're going to miss all of this. But I really don't think. I think Saturday Night Live has a recognition probably 99%. When you say Saturday Night Live, you know what are they?
Most people know.
45 years. I think they've been doing
Oh, yeah.
45 years.
At least.
I think so. It's like
At least.
1975. Okay. There was a guest host and actually a writer, Buck Henry, right?
Mhm.
Buck Henry was a writer for the show, and then he would also appear in the show. And this is when Jane Curtin and Gilda Radner were the two female stars of the show. It was Dan Aykroyd, Garrett Morris, and Chevy Chase.
Right.
Right. And then Bill Murray. Okay. But he did a. It was Uncle Buck. Was it Uncle? Uncle
Yeah, I
Buck.
don't remember that.
He was a dirty old man, and he would have. They would dress Gilda Radner in the pigtails like a little girl.
Yeah.
And he would. It was all.
See, that's what I'm talking
It was
about.
all sexual
It's
innuendo, like
way-
sitting on my lap playing pony and all this and that. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know what he was doing. Now you talk about like the Me Too generation and the Me Too movement now, and you know
It's much more conservative now than it used to be.
I'm saying that because I mean I remember watching it, and at the time you're laughing at it. It's like that's my goodness,
Well-
you know. But I don't think you can even find those videos anymore. I think they've taken those down. And if you
I'm sure somebody
if
can find them.
you look at Henry's interviews in more or less present day. Now I don't know where he is right now, but like 5-10 years ago. He feels a little remorse about doing that type of that was really dark humor.
Well,
dark
like I
comedy.
said, I think it's more conservative now than it was then
Could be.
across the board.
Could be.
It's just my
I
opinion.
mean, they pushed the envelope. They pushed the envelope in Saturday Night Live, and I think that was part of
Well-
Lauren's idea. to
And
push-
if you want to see something good now that directly goes against a lot of the things that we're not supposed to talk about now, Dave Chappelle on Netflix does that. He actually attacks every cancel generation thing that they do now. Like there's certain things that you can't talk about now that they'll try to cancel you if you do.
Yeah.
And he takes on all of them.
And that's cool.
And this is his latest one on
Chappelle,
Netflix.
Chappelle's excellent. I think he's a brilliant comic. And
He's
again,
one of the
this
all-time
is on
greats.
streaming on a paid network or Netflix. But even back in the network days, you had in Living Color.
Mm-hmm.
You think of in Living Color, you had Men on Film.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean those actors were hilarious.
Yep.
But I don't know if you could do that today on.
Not at 8 o'clock.
No.
Because that came on at 8 o'clock on
Yeah.
a Sunday on Fox.
Exactly. And again, they're pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was great comedy. If you take it for what it is and don't get too wrapped up in all of that, I mean, it's.
I think it seems to me that a lot of it is if you have kids and what you worry about.
Well, it's
because,
age appropriate.
because you know,
You wouldn't put a 5-year-old in front
right.
of
And,
men in
and,
film, 'cause
since,
they're not
and
gonna-
since I don't worry about that stuff, if I don't like it, I just change the channel. It's simple as that.
Right.
So
Don't
it
get all
doesn't
worked
bother
up
me.
about
I
it.
don't get all worked up about it. Music, all that's the same way. If I don't like it, I just turn it.
Yeah. You know, it's funny to watch like the old videos. Like I love going back and watching like MC Hammer. I mean, seriously, you know. And there's a
My
whole-
favorite part is how bad they were at making
Some
videos
of
when they
them were,
started.
but I mean, you know, the music was like you still hear it today.
The music's
you can't
good.
you can't touch this.
Well, you know what's
and
funny?
just his choreography. You know, it
Oh,
was
yeah.
very it was very
It was a
like
show.
raw in a
It was
way.
a show.
You know, and like you said, the production value of it wasn't that. It was okay.
The,
It was okay, but you still watched it, and it was just like I look at that then, like MC Hammer, and it was like it was just fun to watch. You know, and it was
Well,
it
and
was
that
enjoyable
was
to
a lot
listen
of
to.
it.
You know,
I think that,
and Hammer Time.
well, yeah.
You know.
It's funny to me how, as we've gotten older, you have a different perspective. Some of the songs that you thought were going to be classics when they came out, 25 years later, they're not.
Yeah.
It's music. Like I'm trying to think of one right now, but I can't. But some random pop song that, you know, when I was in high school, everybody made fun of you for listening to. Well,
But
that's what they still
They
play.
stand the test of time.
And all that
Yeah.
stuff that they were listening to, you never hear
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
Well,
interesting.
that's just it. No, if you listen to, you're right.
Because
This song came
it's
out.
sad. I listened to the oldie station and they play the stuff I grew
But you're
up
right.
with. Like, dang.
This song came out 45 years ago, and you hear it, and it's like, well, you know, when that song was out, there was 100 other songs in the Billboard Top 100. That's the one that's
And they might not even been number one.
no.
You know?
You know what it's like though? It's like this. It's like this. You look at the top 100 musics from July of 1975, right? And maybe it's Bachman Turner Overdrive, Taking Care of Business, or something like that. It's much like when you look at the NBA statistics and you go back and say, look at the 1992, look at the 1984 draft, and somebody's taken first. And with the programs they have out on these websites now, you can click on different features like, okay, let's look at all the points they scored, and it flips the draft pick to say, well, you know what, they chose so and so for number one, but when the rubber hit the road, he didn't do squat. This guy, well, look at Brady Anderson, not Brady Anderson, that's baseball. Tom Brady. Yeah. He was drafted in the 6th round.
Yeah.
And he's a GOAT.
He's probably the best ever.
You know? So what would be really cool is to go to his draft and say, let's go through drafts rounds 1 through 5. And
look, we can pretend that Bill Belichick and them are great, but they passed on him 6 times. He was not even their first pick in the 6th round.
Yeah.
So who's good here?
And look what he did to try to get to the 6th round. His father was sending out tapes to anybody that would accept one.
Yeah.
Look at my boy. Look at my boy. Look at that boy.
We'll move on to sports, but a quick word on music. Is there anything that can take you back to a place and time like music?
No.
You hear a song, and you're right back where you were. You know what I mean?
It's funny. It's funny you say that because I forget the name of the group. I can hear the song that I rolled off the parking lot when I bought my 1984 No Alliance.
So that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And you're right back there.
It's Yes, the group Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
you're absolutely
It don't even have to be a song that you like or dislike. It's just, it takes you right back to that moment, whether it's good, bad, or whatever. But anyway.
I can hear, we said this, I think, in one of the last episodes, the Beatles song Revolution. I coming down the steps, going to Harbin Hall at Georgetown on a Friday. It was a beautiful day. Classes are done, and someone had their big speakers
right
in the window and just blasted that song.
That's what I'm talking about
at the beginning of it, and I immediately put yourself.
I'm not a fan, but there's an REM song, the group REM,
I love REM.
that takes me to a particular bar at ECU on a particular night. I won't go into any more detail on that.
I think what I love REM. In fact, I probably listen to them each day or once a day. When I leave the office, I have another job. When I leave the office in the afternoon, I love to watch Begin the Begin live.
They were so huge, and then
they stopped. They pulled the plug on themselves.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And now if you look at Stipe today, I mean, he looks like David Letterman. He's got
the
big beard and the head. And
you would think would be incredibly odd, but I've actually heard him on several podcasts and things. Is the guy from the Smashing Pumpkins?
Oh, Billy
something. Yeah, he's actually fairly normal.
Yeah, he was kind of a little abnormal during that.
Right. I mean, he didn't look like. I mean, obviously some of his stage presence, whatever. Yeah. But he was, back then he was bald.
And you know what? Some of their songs have staying power too. I mean, you still hear Smashing Pumpkins.
Like I said, it's hard to say that it might have been the number 20 song that year, but it's the one that stuck.
You don't like REM? What don't you like about it?
I mean, I'm not a fan. I'll listen to it, but
you're either love them. I think people either. I remember Timmy.
It's not. Let's just say it ain't in my job. It's not in my job.
That's top 3 or 5 for me.
Losing My Religion and that particular time frame. It was that and about 2 other songs.
Shiny Happy People.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah, that was right in this period that I'm talking about, and it.
Orange Crush.
It takes me to
Orange Crush.
a bar at a certain night at a certain time.
Yeah, okay.
That kind of thing. So it is what it is.
That's how
I don't want to go into any more detail.
That's how I feel about canned sweet potatoes. I remember living by myself, and I had canned sweet potatoes, and it was a big can. I felt like I got to eat them all. And man, I vomited after eating them. And to this day, I look at canned sweet potatoes, and I just want to blow lunch. I don't know why. I'll eat it. In fact,
why would you even eat canned sweet potatoes?
Because I don't know. I didn't know how to cook a real sweet potato. We didn't have microwaves. I didn't have a microwave.
You didn't have a microwave?
Well, they didn't come out till what? In the 80s? Yeah. I don't think so. Yeah, it was Tang and then microwave.
That's probably pretty close because...
So you had to bake them. You had to bake potatoes. No.
Wow.
I'll tell you the thing I loved in the group. We didn't have a microwave, but we had a deep. I mean, this is before all the people deep frying their turkeys. We had a deep fryer, and we bought potatoes by the bag. I mean, big bag, and we made French fries like everybody. Yeah. That was just, and we could just have a whole meal of French fries. And out of the fryer.
We had
That was nice.
I said before, one of my roommates on this show, that one of my roommates was worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken. Well, when I was in the dorm, one of the guys that lived on my hall worked at Wendy's.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of hamburgers, put it that way.
Take them home at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Sure, they have
Let's
to.
call it that.
They have to.
Yeah, let's call it that.
Hey, look at that! Look what fell into my bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's call it that.
They're gonna throw
It
it
was
out.
not me, so
They're
you
gonna
know,
throw it
but
out,
let's
you
call
know.
it that.
So no, that's I mean, but yeah, I mean, they still sell cans.
But we had a
of
hot plate in the room, you know what I mean?
Oh sure.
And so the whole hall would smell like Wendy's hamburgers, and you eat it on low
You had
bread
like,
because you had like 2 pennies.
You thought you were the bomb if you had a toaster oven.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
that? The toaster,
Oh, yeah.
ding, you know, and
Oh,
you can
yeah.
make English muffins in that. But I'll tell you what, I think I was coming home from college, so it was somewhere between 79 and 83, somewhere in that window. I thought, my parents bought a microwave at their house,
Mm-hmm.
and they also bought cable TV, which I thought, this is terrific, I'm never going back to school.
Right.
But the fact that you could take raw hamburger patty and put it in the microwave for like 2 minutes, and then throw some cheese on it at the last minute, and there comes a hot hamburger. I just thought, this is revolutionary. I mean, I was, up to that point, my ability to cook consisted of Pillsbury dough, right? I learned this, I took home ec in my senior year. My senior year of high school, I took home ec. I think that was part of what elevated me to become a speaker at our commencement.
Okay.
So you pop the Pillsbury dough, and
Yeah.
to this day, I still hate doing that because you never know when it's going to pop open. You know, it kind of shocks you and surprises you. You lay out each of the little cuts of dough, biscuits, smash them down, put tomato paste, oregano, and grated cheese. Now you've got 10 mini pizzas.
I could make.
Have you ever done that?
No,
Do it
I've made
tonight.
cinnamon rolls.
I'm
with
serious.
that,
Do it tonight. You'll think that is the greatest quick little meal.
though. I've made cinnamon rolls with those before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can make little pizzas.
Well, you know,
I thought that was marvelous.
when I went to ECU, and you're right, when I started thinking about the microwave stuff, because the wiring in the dorms was not up to par yet with microwaves. So every once and again, it would kill the
Yeah.
whole floor.
Because they were big.
You had to have a
They
limit,
were
yeah,
big
but
fat units.
you had to have, you couldn't get but X size, whatever the,
Yeah.
you know, but, you know, everybody didn't really know what that meant either,
Yeah,
so,
and nor did they know how
yeah.
to clean them,
yeah, well,
right?
I still don't.
Yeah,
No, I'm not gonna lie.
No.
That's out of my.
I think that's one of the. I think we have the Apollo program to thank for that. I don't like tang. I never really got into that, but I'll tell you what. You know, like I said last night, I had a sweet potato nuked in the
Right.
microwave.
Well, before we go, because we're getting close, I just want to tell everybody the NBA's coming back. Baseball's probably coming back in the end of June. NBA's the end of July. Racing's already started. Football is
Now we just got to
saying.
get the fans in the stadiums.
Yeah, the NBA's going to do it from Disney World and
Oh, that's cool.
the ESPN of Disney World.
Wow.
So,
that's cool.
and they're going to do 22 teams. They'll play 8 games prior to the playoffs, and then they'll jump into playoffs.
I'll tell you,
They're going to fly everybody in.
It's gonna be a horse race.
Yeah.
All these leagues.
And hockey as well. Hockey's
yeah.
doing something similar to the NBA.
Yeah.
So if you're a sports fan, TV is going to get good in August for probably the first time in a long time. Because usually there's a gap.
Yeah, and you know what? Before they ramp up and get into it, this is going to be like, you know, at the end of the like in week 12 in the NFL, where playoff teams are really fighting for a spot, or like in a NASCAR race where there's 10
Right.
10 laps left in the race,
Right.
and nobody's giving up any
That's
position.
what it's gonna be.
That's how it's going to be. It's going to be a free for all.
It's hockey's going to be. They got 24 teams in hockey for the playoffs. I think the NBA is going to end up with 16. Start with 22 and somehow get to 16.
Baseball players can't spit, drink Gatorade, share
Well-
bottles, shower at the park.
The interesting thing is the money involved in the NBA. They were looking at as much as a 40% cut in pay for the players because of the money.
Yeah.
So
They're not
that's
playing
one of
games.
the motivations
Same
for
for
coming
baseball.
back. Yeah. Well, that's one of the hang-ups with
Yeah.
baseball, why they haven't got anything concrete.
You know what though? I mean, it's entertainment, and they deserve what they get paid for the games that they play. That's how I think. I don't think a baseball player whose contract is for 162 games,
No.
and they're playing 80.
And there must have been
Get the-
some
get the
stipulations
full-
in it because
Yeah.
the NBA was clear from the beginning.
And
that,
you know what? And they're even talking about the minor league players that aren't going to get paid. A lot of these minor league players that are good, I mean, that are really
the good ones
that
got
are really-
contracts.
They
with the team.
got a signing bonus,
Right.
and hopefully those kids can at least have saved a little bit of that, so they can get through this year and maybe next year. Hopefully next year.
Well,
it'll be
again, the
all-
NBA must stipulate that because it was clear in the beginning that if they didn't play the games, the players wouldn't get paid.
Yeah.
Baseball must have been different because that came into question right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the wording
I bet
is
they're
with their
anxious.
contracts or whatever, but
I bet they're anxious as much as the fans
the Baseball Players Association does not appear to be anxious to start playing.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's about. The Football Players Association, football owners, the NBA owners, they seem ready to go.
Yeah.
And same with hockey.
Now, I wonder what we're going to cut out of here real soon. Quickly, though, college football, on or off?
I think off.
Oof, wow. That's going to hurt a lot of sports.
I just
down,
don't see how
down
they
the
do it.
card.
But I think they're starting to have some meetings, and I think if you ever wanted to see the Power 5 conferences break away from everybody else, I think you're going to see it now, because the Texases and all them, they walk to a different beat. It's a lot of more money, and
maybe it'd be a shakeup, you know?
Right. And in reality, the NCAA actually does not have any binding control over any of these colleges. It is a loosely based organization that they choose to be a part of.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if Texas said, I don't want to be in it anymore, they couldn't play unless the other team said, we don't want to be in it anymore.
Maybe the one's really scared is
right.
the NCAA body.
But if Texas and USC and Notre Dame and all them said, you know what, we want our own league. We don't want anything to do with y'all. They could do it legally, and it would be fine. So we may see some changes. Anyway, enjoy the wet weekend.
Yeah, well, it depends where you are. I can see the sun shining over there towards wherever that direction is.
Have a good weekend.
All right, have a good weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, yeah, I should have said.